I mean, somebody else got third on.
You're fine. I'm always scary when I'm at something.
Yeah, I'm not by myself.
I always take them.
I was giving it out again today.
Yeah.
Just reflexive at this point. Yes, I was gonna give you a heads up beforehand to do it.
I have no qualms. If you're okay, I'll just shoot you back a response that, sure, I'll sign. Yeah, or this is my.
Yep.
And the real deal.
Yeah. Just we'll be. I mean, here's the thing. If it does, we'll be ready for it. So,
From a budgetary standpoint, makes a lot of sense. From a staffing standpoint, what chief has been, and he's good to do it. He has no qualms.
yeah.
He's good to do it, but that's not what he should be.
Yeah, it's the highest and best use of one's time.
Well, and you know, that's a little specific in its job duties. So, you know, I can't actually put my floater over there.
Yep.
That's not. I can put her about anywhere, but no, I can't put her there.
Get your coloring book.
Almost looks like one.
Yeah. I'm fearful. I've grabbed this too many times. I tend to rub my eye. Danny,
Ready?
you on? Okay, it is 5:00. We will go ahead and call the Board of Works and Safety meeting to order here, February 12th, 2024, in the council chambers. First, we'll have our roll call. Dan, would you start us?
Dan Lepke, Board of Public Works and Safety.
Jake Wilson, City Attorney.
Justin Green, Mayor.
Sally Hatfield, City Clerk Treasurer.
Warren Jones, Board of Work and Public Safety.
Okay, all members are present and accounted for, so we've met quorum. We will proceed with the agenda. Tonight, we will start with the minutes of the January 8th, 2024 board. That is on pages 1 and 2.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes January the 8th, 2024.
Dan makes the motion.
Second.
Warren seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, if you will, please, the reports from the departments. Brandon, we'll start with wastewater. What can you tell us tonight?
Then with the weather finally breaking, we're starting to get a lot more work going here. We did several new taps, fixed several taps that have went bad on us. Our UV building we built last year was unfinished on the inside. And you start having birds around the nest, so we took some paneling, put on the inside of there so we can eliminate that issue. We had a call from IDM about a smell complaint. So it turned out to not be pertaining to the city at all. Never heard any more about that, so I assume they didn't need to talk to us any at all about that. We had a lift station plug go bad on us and caused 2 pumps to burn up. We got one of those rushed, put back in. We still had another pump in its place, so we were never in any serious trouble there. We had another one break on us. The impeller broke off with the bolt in the shaft. So we had that one sent off, and they had to disassemble it to get the bolt out. So it was a little more than I expected. And overall, it's most all got on there.
And plenty of work coming as it gets
Yes,
out of February and March.
yes.
Okay.
I'm glad for the good weather.
You got it. Any questions of Brandon? Okay. Thank you, sir.
He just been awful busy.
Yes, yes, he has. Okay. Behind that packet is your water report submitted. Nothing out of the ordinary, and this appear to be standard. Questions on the water report?
I'll make a motion to accept the water report as stands.
Want to make that motion? As uncharacteristic of it, but that's okay. Hey,
Sounded good.
you will second that?
I'll second.
Oh, good. All right.
Sounded good.
It does. All in favor?
Uh,
She's not going to record that. Okay. Your utility adjustments, please, pages 3 and 4. Any questions on the utility adjustments? If not, we'll seek a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve the utility adjustment.
I'll second that motion.
Warren makes the motion, Dan seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, those same sign. Okay, project updates. As you read in the minutes, there weren't any indicated new items or unfinished from January. So there really isn't anything unfinished for Waterworks for February. Sally, unless I'm forgetting something. Okay, board, we do have several items yet in the agenda. New business, adoption of Highland Drive extension on page 5. Board, this is a similar request, housekeeping item, if you will, that we did 2 months ago. This is the proper procedure to extend and adopt this section of road into city inventory as it is finished, and as you see on page 5, the department heads have verified and signed off. Again, to add to the total linear mileage, that we get the gas tax on, this goes to that calculation. So, unless there's questions, Jake, anything on that one?
Nothing bad.
Would seek that motion to adopt Highland Drive extension.
I'll make the motion to adopt Highland Drive extension.
Dan makes the motion.
I'll second.
Warren seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both same sign. Okay, next, board, in your packet, pages 6 through 10. You will see a proposed interlocal agreement. Town of New Pekin came to Salem with their representation and asked some questions of our building inspector and how they could proceed in gaining some knowledge and gaining a little bit of expertise in doing some things in and around the town of New Pekin when it comes to permitting. And they are certainly wanting to proceed with some of their permits and how they issue and inspect thereafter. As we know, building inspections require a little bit of understanding state code and things of that nature. So with that conversation, Jake and I sat down and reviewed a proposal that would do just that, somewhat allow Ronnie Bowles to have that connection and on those occasions, if needed, some verification of inspections that would be allowed. So Jake, would you like to speak a little further and make sure I'm not missing something?
Yeah, so essentially under this for a period of 6 months from once the agreement would be effective, our building department would essentially perform the same services for the community of the town of New Pekin. To the mayor's point, this is a bit of an opportunity for them to learn and to for us to assist them in that process of getting up to speed on how Salem handles these matters. If you have any further questions on it, let us know.
As you see, as it reads towards the end of it, page 10 actually, they have proposed even a fee schedule. So there's certainly ways to make this work, and it's advantageous to both sides. I think this is a goodwill effort. Our neighboring community certainly has asked, and they've been good to work with when we've needed something. Board, I wouldn't bring this to you if I didn't think this was an appropriate request. To Jake's point, this shows a 6-month window. Hey, they want a little longer, look at it again. But I don't think this is anything wrong.
Make a motion to accept the interlocal agreement with New Pekin Building Inspection Services.
Okay, Dan makes a motion to approve
I'll second.
interlocal agreement as presented. Warren seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, both same sign. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'll let town manager know, and that will be inked. Let's see. Jake, how did we have that?
We'll actually be taking it to the
That's right. I'm just reading. I see now. Okay. Yeah. All right. That will send it to the council here momentarily. All right. Thank you. Board, if you'll look next on your agenda, the cemetery farm rent contract. We have got the balance of the cemetery, as you well know, under a farm lease. The acreage that is not needed at this time. That farm lease has been active for some time with various gentlemen bidding on it. And so it is up and for renewal, advertised. So Jake, I will pass that over to you. Sally, how many do we receive?
One.
Okay. So
The proposal is from Clayton Pearley and Pearley Farms at 508 East Pearlie Road, Salem, Indiana, 47167. The job name is crop lease of approximately 25 acres. Tax parcel number 8824290000-003.00-002, located immediately to the west of Crown Hill Cemetery for crop years 24, 25, and 26. The proposal is, as a second generation farmer and lifetime resident of Washington County, I appreciate the opportunity to provide a farm lease proposal to the city of Salem. For these 25 acres of cropland, cornfield, and soybeans will be rotated every other year. When fertilizing the ground, the soil will be tested every 2 years to ensure the appropriate elements are in the ground to grow a great producing crop. There are a couple of different ways of fertilizing the soil, but commercial fertilizer would be the best option to use. Spreading fertilizer will be contracted out. For proper weed control, an early spring burn down by adequate chemical application will be applied prior to the seeds being planted. This application will have micronutrients included to add nutrients back into the soil. Planting will occur with either a 12-row or 8-row planter. After seeds are planted, the ground will be checked weekly to monitor weed pressure and growth. Based on this, additional chemical application with residual components will be applied to keep weed growth at a minimum as the crops continue to grow. In regard to tilling, turbo tilling would be the best method turbo tilling would be the method used, which would be following harvest. This prevents any washouts, but also allows the crust that is created on the top of the ground to be lightly turned over. In turn, this allows nutrients to be put back into the ground. This type of tilling will also help keep Johnson grass at a minimum and better seed emergence during planting. If any ditches or washouts occur, a waterway will be established. Rock will be added to prevent further washout, or equipment will be used to work ditches back into the ground. Based on these farming methods, this cropland will be properly cared for to produce a bountiful crop. The proposed acre rental rate is $170 per acre. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need any clarification of any of the information provided above, and that is from Clayton Pearlie.
Did he provide any other documentation with his bid?
There's no other documentation other than the description.
Well, board, the current lease is up, so you have two options. You can review this, understand what Jack just read, and go ahead and approve, or chose to throw it and reject it. We need to have that discussion, but reading those parameters, it sounds like that's a respectable bid. Jake, do you have any other comment how you'd like to proceed?
Aside from any discussion or a vote of the board, I have no further comment.
Refresh my memory, what was we getting per acre previously?
I would have to go look. It
I was
was
thinking,
around-
I was thinking
it was around
150.
170.
Was it?
Yeah.
And it's not the easiest to access, so some of that is a little trying in those back valleys. That has deterred some of them from bidding.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Clayton Pearlie for the cemetery farm rent contract for the 3 years, I believe.
Okay, Danny makes the motion to proceed and honor Elise,
I'll second.
seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, okay. Sally will let the gentleman know. We'll go from there. Okay, next, removal of rank vegetation is a bid that was also be open tonight. Sally, did we have any rank vegetation bids?
0 bids.
Okay, Jake, with your permission, can we repost that and see if somebody might entertain at the March meeting?
Yes.
All right, lastly, then in this group, we have mowing as the city property. The regular mowing and maintenance of said lots that was advertised. And how many of those do we have tonight, Sally?
3 of them.
3 bids.
Okay.
We have a proposal from E&K Lawn Care, Eric Vermillion and Christy Cheatham. The proposal is dated February 8th, 2024. The proposal is for weekly services for the city of Salem for mowing, trimming, and removal of grass and vegetation for the 2024 calendar year for the following lots and premises located within Washington County, Indiana. Salem City Water Towers, number 5, Wastewater Plant, John Hay Pump House, City Dog Park, and lift stations, being 8. Mowing, trimming, and removal of grass and vegetation for all lots and premises listed above, $700 per week. Upon acceptance of a proposal, a certificate of liability insurance and a list of mowing and trimming equipment will be provided. And it continues, actually, they included, let's see, they included a proposal for rank vegetation in the same packet, so they might have been responsive to each. I'll set that to the side and we can revisit it in a moment.
And the business name is what?
It is E&K, E ampersand K Lawn Care. So we also have a proposal for rank vegetation and for 2024 for premises that are in violation of Salem City codes. And also they include in here a proposal for Lake Celinda property, including the pump house, but not including the Lake Celinda Dam. I will set, right. What I will do is go ahead and set the other 2 off to the side, and we'll just proceed with the original, for purposes of right now, the original $700 per week bid for the general mowing, trimming, and removal of grass and vegetation.
That dollar was,
That was $700 per week.
Okay.
The second proposal is from Greg Moore and Moore Lawn Care, proposal dated February 12, 2024. This proposal is for weekly services for calendar year 2024, the city of Salem for the following properties: Lake Celinda mowing at $500, Lake Celinda trim and limb removal at $65, John Hay Water Plant at $175, Salem City Water Towers 5 at $200, City Dog Park, $45, lift stations at $75, and wastewater plant at $125. Services will be provided as requested by the City of Salem by myself for a weekly total cost of $1,185. Upon acceptance of this proposal, certificate of limited public liability insurance and a list of mowing and trimming equipment will be provided. Thank you for the opportunity to submit a proposal and your consideration. There was also an insurance certificate included within the packet. The third and final bid is from Pointer Lawn Care at 3876 West Mount Tabor Road in Salem, Indiana, 47167. In response to the City of Salem's request for quotes, Pointer Lawn Care will mow and trim the following locations: service locations, water treatment plant, John Hay, water towers, Lake Celinda, wastewater treatment plant, Joseph Street, lift stations, and City Dog Park. The price, $1,212 per week. Certificate of liability and equipment list will be provided upon acceptance of proposal. Thank you for the opportunity to quote these locations. And those are the three bids.
Okay, so if you were deciphering back to the first one, we need to, there's a page 2 here by chance.
We have, yes, so we have two additional pages that are each separate proposals. One is for the removal of rank vegetation during the 2024 calendar year from the lots and premises located within the City of Salem, Indiana, that are in violation of Salem City codes. And then the other is for mowing, trimming, and debris removal for the 2024 calendar year of Lake Celinda property, including the pump house, but not including Lake Celinda Dam.
Well, let's pause on the rank vegetation, as
Okay.
it was posted as a separate request.
Okay.
Let's
The-
address that.
Okay, so for the Lake Celinda property, including the pump house, that is $650 per week. And that would be in addition to the $700 per week as previously noted.
That's the M.K. Lawn Care, right?
Correct.
Okay. Jake, do you want to tabulate all, or are you good? The latter two, I think, were tabulated as you read.
Yes.
Um,
So I will go back and recite the totals real quick. For Moore Lawn Care, it was $1,185 per week. For Pointer Lawn Care, it was $1,212 per week. And for E and K Lawn Care, the total aggregate amount would be $1,350 per week. The lowest bid would be that of Moore Lawn Care.
Okay, board. There's your tabulation, your total of the 3 bids. You have any questions of the bids as they were read aloud?
Nope.
Make a motion to accept the bids of Mr. Greg Moore of Moore Lawn Care Services.
I'll second that.
Motion made to accept the low bid, $11.85 for the total list of inventory locations. Mr. Jones seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, both same sign. Okay. Please, then if we can back up and address the rank vegetation that was received.
Yes. So from E and K Lawn Care, we have a proposal dated February 8th, 2024. Proposals for the removal of rank vegetation during the 2024 calendar year from lots and premises located within the city of Salem, Indiana that are in violation of Salem city codes. Per site basis for those residential lawns or lots requiring only mowing of rank vegetation is $60 per lot. The hourly basis for those residential lawns or lots which require the removal of debris as well as mowing of rank vegetation is $25 per hour. And the per acre basis for the mowing of larger unimproved lots is $60 per acre. Upon acceptance of a proposal, a certificate of liability insurance and a list of mowing and trimming equipment will be provided.
Okay. Anybody in the audience as a representative from E&K Lawn Care? Sir, since the bid opening, do you have a request to stay with the rank vegetation bid by not receiving the lawn mowing bid?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the only bid.
All right. By default, or do you want a motion?
I think we might as well do a
I
motion.
think so. Board, please, would you?
I'll make a motion to accept E&K's bid.
Warren makes Jones to accept the E&K rank vegetation proposal bid.
I will second that motion.
And seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Okay. Please, board, then, we'll move on. Your utility payable voucher of claims, page 14 through 27.
Make a motion to accept the utility payable voucher register of claims.
Danny makes a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Jones seconds, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, pose same sign. Okay, miscellaneous. Sally, I believe that brings up your part of the agenda.
Yes, we need to talk about changing the meeting date for April, October, and November. April's date is the day of the eclipse, so I don't think we'll be able to have a meeting that evening. October's is Columbus Day, which is a holiday, so we will not be working. And November is November the 11th, and that is Veterans Day. So we normally change the date for Columbus Day because that happens every year on the same Monday. But we have the additional 2.
Okay, and is your proposal to go to the next day, calendar day, Tuesday?
I'm assuming, but it depends on everybody's decision.
Kind of what we normally do. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Two.
That works.
I'm done.
Okay, so it'll be April the 9th. And October the 15th. And November the 12th. Okay.
Got that in motion.
Yes.
Please, board, motion to accept the April 9, October 15, November 12th days for meeting times.
I'll make a motion, we accept them.
Warren makes the motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. All right, we came to the end of the agenda. We have no signed comments. So board, thank you. We did that with only 1 minute over, so we seek motion to adjourn.
Motion for adjournment.
And makes a motion, 5:31 and change. We will take a short breather and begin with the common council in just a moment. Thank you. Yeah. He is. And yes, Mr. Highland.
All right.
You deal with my agreements.
I usually go sit back and see if I'm bad. That's that. I guarantee you.
Be careful.
Well, you know, bud.
How are you doing?
Good, are you?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm good with your too.
Yeah, you gotta watch her. Yeah, you gotta watch her. She's different.
We all are too.
Good.
Busy.
Yep.
Yep.
They're all.
Ralph was a lot of here last time. I said Sally would send me a thing.
I can't.
Send it to the second.
Yes.
For like an invitation.
It was fine.
And I've seen this done in other meetings. We can do
Okay.
moment that have quiet for
That line is I don't. Once I tell you, so make it short.
Yes.
Two lines.
people don't often confuse lawyers and clergy.
Well.
I like to.
Oh yes, I gave it back to you. Yes, I've touched the vegetation proposal.
No. You can do that.
Oh,
Ever since we did it.
Are you gonna offer a mid meeting motion to adjourn? So are you gonna offer a mid-meeting motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
I'll make an omnibus motion to table everything on the agenda and adjourn the meeting.
That's it.
All I gotta do is get a majority vote.
Sorry. No.
I've never seen it done. Theoretically, I don't see a reason why I couldn't. Okay.
Something off. I have those.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we talked about the public.
No,
hearing.
no, you don't.
You don't.
Wait.
Oh, the,
No. Jesus.
okay. Yes, but I think Bo actually handled that.
You certainly weren't here.
So, yeah, I was,
Can we do that?
so my recommendation would be that we table it until the next meeting. And the reason is because we haven't, like, we didn't put it on our agenda to be posted and circulated. And we have 90 days after it's certified to act on it. So.
Well,
She's good. From our standpoint, we got 90 days to act after certification.
Anything else? Is the record maker telling you? Register. Supposed to be okay.
Oh, no, not tonight. I'll see you. Bye.
Okay, after our musical chairs, I believe we're ready to proceed. And so, at 5:39, I'd like to call the Common Council meeting to order here, February 12th, 2024, in the council chambers. If everybody would stand, we'll have our invocation followed by our pledge.
Our Father in heaven, thank you once again for this day and all the wonderful blessings of life. Lord, we thank you for the air that we breathe. Thank you for the friends we have, and also bless our enemies, Lord. We pray that the things we say here and do tonight will be in accordance with your holy and divine word. Lord, we ask you forgive us of all of our many unforgiven sins and save us in the end. These favors and all others we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Please face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Thank you, Steve. Okay, council, if you will refer back to your agenda, please. We will start roll call.
Dan Lipke, District 1.
Dylan Moore, District 2.
Jake Bissing, City Attorney.
Justin Green, Mayor.
Sally Hadbo, City Clerk Treasurer.
Steve Crane, District 3.
Randy Lee, District 4.
Roger Pennington at large.
Okay, council, you're all here, present, and accounted for, so we definitely need a quorum. So we will proceed. Council minutes of the meeting on January 8th. Pardon me, Sally's already correcting me. Once again, thank you, Sally. Before we get to the minutes, we do have the advertised public hearing for the additional appropriation as advertised in LPC. The ordinance 2024-2. And let's see, Sally, I've got my notes. Which page is that on?
22.
There it is. I couldn't see if we're reading it. Please, council, on page 22 and 23, you will find that listed. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience tonight to speak on behalf of ordinance 2024-2, the additional appropriation? Is there anybody in the audience tonight to speak against ordinance 2024-2? 1, 2, 3. Okay, council, I need motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion. Close public hearing.
Dylan makes the motion to close public hearing.
I'll second.
Steve seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Sally, tell us what we have here tonight.
This is from a grant that we received for the tornado that came through last August, and it is to help chip up the debris that we had. And so we received the money, we have to have an additional appropriation in order to spend the money.
Okay, so receipt of new money is outside the 24 budget. Thank goodness we got a little help. A little more than nice, but hey, sometimes pennies add up to dollars. So in order for us to write the APV and have it in your claim voucher, this certainly will have to be done first. As I say, item of housekeeping, I would seek motion to approve the additional appropriation ordinance 2024-2.
I make a motion we approve 2024-2.
Roger makes the motion.
I'll second.
Down seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now that I've got my glasses focused, we will go to the minutes of January 8th. Council pages 1 and 2.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of meeting January the 8th, 2024.
Dan makes the motion.
I'll second.
Randy seconds, pardon me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. If you will, the minutes of call meeting January 22nd on page 3.
Move we accept the minutes from January 22, 2024.
Roger makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Steve seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, reports from departments. Please, your financial statement on page 4 through 10. Sally, once again, anything you can add to that?
Nothing to add.
Okay. With that, let's seek motion to approve financial statement as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve financial statement for January.
Steve makes the motion.
I'll second.
Randy seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Attached after that, page 11 through 13 is your senior center report. Naomi once again indicated a lot of activity and a lot of things planned, especially looking at her calendar.
This also includes your December report that was not in your last packet.
I think we have verification from at least one person here how busy it is.
It's very busy over there. We've got a lot of new members and a lot of activity.
Good.
Going very well.
Okay, moving down the agenda now. Okay, as you said, we saw in the minutes, we had very little discussion there on project updates or unfinished. So this does lead into the one item, Resolution TA 2024-1, Peerless Gear Tax Abatement. As you recall, council, you approved the SB1 Statement of Benefits for the proposed abatement. And as Jake indicated tonight, we would have the ordinance on page 14 and 15. Sorry, resolution. It does say resolution. That is the old business, if you will, from the motion you approved. Jake, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so essentially this is just memorializing what we discussed at the meeting at which we considered the abatement initially. This is just referring back to the initial establishment of the economic revitalization area, and it's a necessary precondition for the abatement, which was already established. So this just, again, memorializes what was previously set forth and voted on.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution.
Bill makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Roger seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that buttons that up. We will let them know that that's finished and ready for signature. Okay, new business. Council in the Board of Works and Public Safety, they have heard of the adoption of Highland Drive Extension and have approved it. If you will go to page 16, this is an item of housekeeping. We have done this actually a few meetings ago on another street. This action puts it in city inventory and certainly allows us to collect the additional gas tax revenue on our total mileage. So as you see, page 16, all the department heads have signed and verified. Board of Works voted unanimously to pass that to you for approval. Any questions on Highland extension? Hearing none, would seek motion to approve.
Make a motion to accept the adoption of Highland Drive extension.
Danny makes the motion.
I'll second.
Randy seconds. All in favor says aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Got tongue tied. I guess it says aye. Okay, council. Next, we have a proposal for an interlocal agreement with New Pekin for building inspection services. You'll see that page 17 through 21. Once again, the Board of Works and Public Safety this and agreed. This is a concept, an interlocal agreement with Salem and New Pekin for just that. They have came and asked the city if we would be interested in helping that permit issuance and inspection services thereafter, in doing so with our building commissioner's resources. Certainly Jake has reviewed it from Frost Brown Todd's perspective, believes it reads fine. We have drafted this. Certainly this is something that I think we should be good neighbors. This is my 2 cents in my commercial. Town of New Pekin has been friendly and helpful to us, and I think this is an opportunity for us to do something back and really doesn't tax or hurt our schedule. And quite frankly, the frequency will be very little. That if we can help them set their parameters and their stage, I think it's appropriate to entertain this. Jake, what have I left out?
So the duration of this is 6 months. We want to extend it, it'll have to come back to vote. Essentially, the building commissioner will be performing the same functions that he performs here in the city of Salem, but for New Pekin as well. Salem will be collecting the fee revenue for applications in accordance with the fee schedule that's set forth attached to the agreement. Theoretically, it should just be operating as the office normally operates, subject to the expanded area in which the work will be done. Either party will have the right to terminate this agreement on 30 days written notice to the other party. So while it's it's an agreement for 6 months, if things aren't working out, there is an avenue for the city to pull out of this arrangement. Any further questions? I'm happy to entertain them.
So it's rate schedule 2 that's attached here, that we will collect 100% of that then, so all the permitting will be ran through our building department.
The town of New Pekin will issue their own
Oh, well,
permit.
that's for their own, okay.
We will receive some revenue off of what their
Okay.
issuance
So it's not, we're not getting 100% of what's here, correct? Okay.
Do we have a percentage that we'll recover? Do we have any hard data, or just kind of? I think because of it's such a wide range of services, I don't know that we'll collect much, and I will tell you, council, I'm not sure that that's a heartburn. You know, if our building inspector goes once a month, you know, and there's some fees we gain back, if we just get our fuel back, you know what, I think that's a fair exchange.
Any, liability issues with our building inspector going out and perform inspections outside of the city's jurisdiction?
We will want to clear it with our insurer, but it should be within the scope of the governmental business. These agreements are permitted acts of governmental units, and it should be covered.
So it's just a temporary kind of agreement to get them on their feet. They're going to establish their own building department at some point. It's kind of what they're working towards, I'm assuming.
So we all know how insurance companies work. So if there's any additional fees or anything like that that we incur because we're adding this to our insurance policy, or if we have to add something to our insurance policy, will that be recovered by them? How are we going to?
I think that would be appropriate if we have a unforeseen cost.
Okay.
We offer that upfront and say, kind of Pekin, we have discovered X.
No, I definitely want that in our motion here that's made, that if we incur any other fees with our insurance company, or if there's any setup fees that have to be done, then yeah, we want that. We want to get that back. I mean, I don't think it would be fair for us to say we're gonna eat the cost of that.
Any other discussion?
I would make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with the town of New Pekin with the understanding of the fees.
Okay, council, you have a motion on the table. Dylan makes the motion to approve interlocal agreement with the town of New Pekin with the caveat, if we incur any expense, please, that would be the town of New Pekin to reimburse. Is there a second?
Second.
Roger had it first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, same sign. Okay. We will let the town know, and they can start a schedule if they wish. We'll proceed. Council, you have 2 board appointments that were omitted. Certainly, these are common council appointments, so you get to make some conversation and decisions. First, the solid waste board. We just omitted that oversight. Goodness, they have a monthly meeting once at the reorganization meeting, and they have had already in January, so their next scheduled meeting is Friday, I believe. I don't want to tell you wrong. Calendar. Yes, because the holiday, they typically meet on the 3rd Monday, so that has changed. But the solid waste board gets an appointment to the interlocal agreement that we do have with the solid waste district and the county commissioners of the city of Salem. So Gail was eager and agreeable to sit on the board. Certainly, with that change, you have now the prerogative of one of you sitting on that. That is a 9 a.m. meeting, typically plus or minus 30 minutes, sometimes 40. And if you choose not to, you always do have the prerogative, with Jake's blessing, of course, appointing somebody. If one of 5 of you don't want to, you can appoint.
So that board, does it oversee like the fees for solid waste for the county dump and
You do have that, as those are regulated by the solid waste board and the board's attorney, which is not Jake, not Frost Brown Todd. They have their own legal counsel. So matters of rates, matters of personnel, matters of operation. Not a lot changes there. Well, maybe once or twice a year something changes. They're pretty routine meetings, but I wouldn't want to speak for the director. Certainly that's her her department, and she brings the agenda to the board.
Make a motion that we nominate Randy Lee, solid waste board.
Is Mr. Lee agreeable?
I'll accept.
You'll check?
I'll accept it.
You'll accept?
I'll accept it.
Okay, goodness. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Dan seconds. All in favor of Randy being appointed to your solid waste board as your representative? Say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Okay. Randy, I'll let Tammy know and come sit with us. Please, next, you by default under Indiana Code have one appointment on the BZA Board of Zoning Appeals. And by default, Mr. Pennington is very much part of this board now. And so we're glad to have him sitting down there, but he cannot wear two hats now. So as that position is your appointment, it cannot be one of you. So this is one that you find a name, you recognize a name, and you're agreeable with that being your council representation. But that's how that appointment need to be seated. Jake, anything to add to that?
It cannot be an elected official. It also cannot be a member appointed to another municipal board. So that's pursuant to statute. So
One cannot be appointed to a municipal board.
correct.
Got it. Okay. Council, if you would like to take that under advisement, certainly put your thinking cap on. If you would like me to get a couple, 2 or 3 names for you.
I have one recommendation, but I mean, I'll check with him first to make sure that he's good with that. So, so yeah, my motion would be to table the board appointment for the BZA board.
Council, any other discussion? Dylan makes a motion to table for the March meeting. With further discussion, is there a second?
Second.
Steve seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Okay. Sally, would you please put that back on? Okay. As you read, we have addressed 2024-2, so that requires no further action. Please, Council, Ordinance 2024-3 is a transfer ordinance on page 24. Sally, would you like to speak to that?
Again, this is a housekeeping item. We have the money. We're just moving from one line item to another.
Make a motion to accept ordinance 2024-3.
Dan makes a motion.
Second.
Roger second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Okay. Ordinance 2024-4 is up next. Adopting amended emergency response plan, pages 25 through 41. Council, this is a new requirement requested of us at the city for our wastewater permit renewal. And so that is I already forgot Brandon left, 5-year permit. Monty, 5 years. And so our 5 years is up. And so in renewing, we've been asked to add this to our language and our city code. So as you see in these following pages, that is what's been drafted. That's what's been blessed by the IDEM as far as the appropriate language. And so, excuse me, Jake, they kind of trump you here a little bit. They like it. They said add it, get your council's blessing. So it is just that, an enforcement response plan in the event we had a vendor who might violate something in and around the wastewater process. So this could be anything from our contracted septic haulers. This could be anything from a cross-contamination violation from an industrial user. But this is something that is extra than what we already had in our violations in our code already. So, Monty, anything you'd like to add to that, or Lois, anything you'd like to add to this adoption process?
Summed it up good.
Jake?
Nothing to add.
Okay. So, council, as I say, I wouldn't get in the weeds too far about debating if it reads appropriate or not, because it's what IDM wants. And I think that makes the notion of, well, if that's our regulatory commission, then we need to go ahead and add this to our city code.
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2024-4, emergency response plan.
Steve makes the motion.
I'll second.
Dylan seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving down, 2024-5 is ordinance establishing TIF 1, 2023 expansion allocation fund. Page 42. Sally, would you like to speak to why we need a new fund?
We had a change in TIF 1 where they segregated some parcels out. And we have to establish this fund in order to accept the TIF revenue into that.
So an item of housekeeping to clean the chart of accounts in such a way that you can separate now the receipt of original TIF 1 and the new allocation in TIF 1. Okay. Pardon me, council, this allows the clerk treasurer's office to receipt said monies.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-5.
Bill makes the motion.
I'll second.
Randy seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Bid award recommendations. Council, you know we did open and hear aloud a bid proposal for water line replacement, and that was taken under advisement by our engineering firm. Can you verify from the rear of the room those bids are still under review?
Yes, that's correct.
So no action tonight?
No.
Okay, council, that will show back up at a future meeting. If you will.
Was there corrections that need to be made, or are they just still reviewing?
I think you're still under advisement and reviewing, correct? Okay. Okay. Next, second read ordinance 2024-1, the Waterworks revenue bond. That is pages 43 through 115. In no particular order, who would like to speak to that first? Bo? Yeah. Please, if you take the podium.
Absolutely. Good evening. Bo Della Cross-Brown Todd. I'm bond counsel on this matter. This is the bond ordinance that was before you at the last meeting for the water project. There have been no changes to it. You adopted on first reading of the last meeting. I think you'll hear some more regarding the rate study and rate ordinance next. But if there's any questions on the bond ordinance, its contents, I have to answer them.
No changes, as you say, from the first read. First read is what we voted on last time. Okay. So as it is teed up procedurally, this is just the next step.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll read the title and
Okay.
do a discussion and vote, as we ordinarily do.
Please.
So ordinance number 2024-1, an ordinance of the city of Salem authorizing the issuance of Waterworks revenue bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay the cost of certain additions, extensions, and improvements to the municipal waterworks of said city, providing for the safeguarding of the interest of the owners of said bonds, other matters connected therewith, including the issuance of notes in anticipation of bonds and repealing ordinances inconsistent therewith.
Okay. Jake, how do you want us to proceed?
Any discussion, and then entertain a motion?
And so this is, this does what for us? Break that down, Jake, just as a, for simplicity. This puts us in what next position by passing this second read?
So second, we'll still generally go up for a third reading at the next meeting, or are you going to do this in two? You want to speak to this?
Yeah, they've already passed it on the first read, so they can pass it tonight.
Okay.
The next step in this process is state revolving fund, which is a subsection of the Union Finance Authority, will be buying these bonds at a very favorable rate. They require a closing near the end of March, so we're kind of on a strict timetable because they require you 30 days out to do a pre-closing with them with final documents and things of the like. So the next step would be this just allows the city to enter into the bonds. Obviously, you still have to pass all of the rate ordinance stuff as well as part of the package, but that's kind of it. I can come back once you guys use the rate ordinance to give you a breakdown of what that process looks like as well.
Well, I'm assuming that our rate ordinance is going to be tied to bond ordinance, I would assume.
Yes, absolutely. So, the bond ordinance, you can't issue the bonds without that and sell the bonds without the rate ordinance passed as well.
So I don't want to step out of line by talking about rates, but that's really what I'm interested in because it appears that we're going to propose to raise rates to pay for the revenue bond. So I wonder if we have two different rate increases because I know that for last meeting, the clerk treasurer stated that our water department was not operating in the black all the time, so to speak. So that there were some discussions that rates were probably going to have to increase no matter what. So I would like to know if we have figures on, we do not do the bond revenue and we don't do that project, how much rates are going to go up versus if we do the bond revenue. I think there's two separate sets of numbers I would like to know because just looking at the projected numbers that you have presented here, by 2026 in phase 3, we're already underwater again in our receipts versus what we're taking in or versus what we're spending. Just looking at the projected numbers here on annual receipts in 2026 phase 3, we have $2,786,700, and our revenues $2,953,953,100. It just trend doesn't really show that we're gaining anything by this. Just looking at numbers, just strictly numbers.
So I think Roger's question, and that's what I think needs to be explained once again, why these are read in the order that they are.
You could, if you wanted to move the ordinance after the rate study discussion that Baker Tilly's going to do. They're here. They have two representatives here that can speak on that. You can certainly do that.
That just makes a little more sense to me. This is one kind of.
It is tied in a certain way. Okay, please, we'll do that.
Thank you, Bob.
Baker Tilly Associates, please.
So you all have copies of the rate study?
Board, council, 115 to 153, and then Courtney, whatever else you have that you would like.
Thank you.
Let's see, 154.
Okay, please tell us who you are and who you're with.
everyone. My name is Courtney Holiday, and I'm with Baker Tilly. I work with Andre Riley. He was here last month, I believe. So just wanted to go through the rate study. It sounds like you guys had a chance to kind of look through that. So instead of kind of going through all of the details of that, I wanted to prepare just a simpler presentation just to kind of highlight some of the main points here. So starting with the upcoming timeline. So as Bill mentioned, we are under kind of some strict guidelines with the SRF financing coming up. There are some deadlines that we have to meet. So our kind of big ask for you tonight is to hopefully decide on some sort of option. I'm going to show you 3 options that we did in the rate study and kind of how those impact the rates. So hopefully going forward tonight, we can decide which option we'd like to go forward with. So then on Thursday, we have some draft documents that are due to SRF that will kind of incorporate these numbers that we're going to talk about tonight. February 26th, we'll be back for the special meeting for the public hearing on the rate ordinance. And then February 29th is that pre-closing on the bonds, followed by about a month later, we'll have a closing on the SRF bonds. So just focusing on kind of that timeline that we need to follow. So jumping into the project. So in our rate study, it incorporates these project costs listed here. So you can see construction costs of about $2.2 million and some construction contingencies of about 10%. So as we know, we haven't decided on which bid we're going to move forward with. So these numbers reflected here are a little bit closer with the second lowest bidder, just to be conservative. And then once we kind of decide which bid we're moving forward with, any changes that would be reflected here should have a pretty minimal impact on the rates. So just keeping that in mind. Also some estimated construction costs included here, engineering, professional fees, things like that. So for our rate study, the total par amount is about $3,325,000. So moving on to the breakdown of the SRF financing. So the 3 alternatives that you'll see in the rate study, really kind of the main driver of these alternatives is the term, the length of the bond issue. So because this project has a 100-year useful life, SRF would allow us to issue a bond up to 35 years, 35-year maturity. The kind of standard is a typical 20-year maturity. So we wanted to kind of look at 20 years, kind of a midpoint of 27 years, and then a 35-year issuance. And then with that, there are also some changes to the interest rates that are assumed. So with the typical 20-year standard structure, Salem currently falls into the 2% interest rate based on their SRF subsidized interest rate matrix, what they look at every quarter. It factors in the current MHI for Salem as well as the current rate for 4,000 gallons. So where you are at right now, you would fall into that 2% range. You would get that for your standard 20-year bond issue. And then anytime you extend the length of the bonds in 5-year increments, it adds 10 basis points to your interest rate. So you can see for the 27-year issuance, we assumed a 2.1% interest rate. And then the 35-year term is looking at a 2.3% interest rate. So the big thing to kind of take away from this page is the total interest. So for the 20-year term, you're looking at about $740,000 of total interest over the 20-year bond issuance, compared to the 35-year term of about $1,545,000 total interest. So just keeping that in mind as we look at how these structures will impact the rates. So before we go into the rates, just looking at our objectives, so what we wanted the revenues to be able to cover. There are kind of 4 different areas that we look at for the rate study. So starting with operation and maintenance. So as you all know, the costs have increased the last couple of years. Costs to run the utilities. It's not just Salem, it's kind of industry-wide inflation and things like that. So it's important to kind of look at increases incrementally to kind of keep up with these rising costs. Also, just building and maintaining the cash balances. So right now, the operating fund is not currently at the minimum balance it would be required to be at for the outstanding bond ordinance related to the 2021 bond issue. So kind of regardless of this project, we would need to kind of consider a rate increase anyway, just to keep up with operating costs, build those cash balances. And then the second thing that we looked at is annual capital improvements. We built this into the rate study. So related to the outstanding 2021 bonds, those were issued through RD. So they require a USDA short-lived asset reserve, an annual amount of $305,600. So in our rate study, we've assumed that that will be phased in over the 3 phases, just kind of built up to that amount of $305,600, just to kind of ease the burden on ratepayers. Payment in lieu of taxes, we also built this in. Just a pilot payment to the city's general fund of $219,000, and that's also phased in by the phase 3 would be up to that $219,000. And then finally, the 4th revenue requirement is that long-term financing that we're discussing. So kind of getting into the summarized estimated rate impact. So this first page, table on page 10, is looking at alternative 1. So this is the proposed 20-year bond issuance. So right now, for phase 1, the net revenue requirement, so everything that the revenues we need to cover, kind of those 4 areas we just went through, would be about $3,449,000. Current revenues are about $2.8 million. So you can see an additional revenues required of about $632,000. And that change in the average monthly residential bill for 4,000 gallons is roughly $7.68. And then you can see phase 2 is assumed would start January 1, 2025, and then phase 3 would start January 1, 2026. So in all 3 of these kind of alternatives we'll look at, the only thing that's changing is the proposed debt based on the maturity length. So for phase 2, for alternative 1, the monthly impact would be $4.68, and then phase 3, the monthly impact would be $3.32. So kind of looking at that on page 11, I think it makes more sense to kind of see how you might follow with communities around you. So you can see Salem currently is the first green bar, and they're kind of on more of the lower half of this graph. Phase 1 kind of puts you towards the middle, and then phase 2 and 3 are kind of more on the right end of this graph. But something to think about is phase 3 wouldn't be until 2026. And if you look at all these other communities, their last rate increases have been 2019, 2021, 2 or 3 years ago. So they're facing the same kind of rising operational costs. They'll likely start looking into rate increases to kind of keep up with some of these things. So this could look very different by the time we get to 2026.
And you don't have a chart to show that the possibilities. We just have to assume that's what's going to happen.
Yes, correct. There's no way to know. So alternative 2 for the proposed 27-year bond issuance. You can see phase 1 for all 3 of these alternatives is pretty similar, a $7.68 increase. Phase 2 is down to $4.28 with the 27-year bond issuance. That's about 40 cents lower than what phase 1 was showing. And then phase 3 is about 4 cents lower than phase 1. So you can see on the community comparison, again, we end up in phase 3 at about $50.16 for the monthly residential average bill. And then looking at alternative 3, by the time we get to phase 3, we'll end up at about $49.68. So really just thinking about, like I said, the additional interest of kind of extending this maturity compared to what these graphs are showing, kind of the difference in the rate alternatives where you end up. And then the kind of last slide, 16, the drivers of the rate impact. So this is really when we compared 2023, the current kind of financials that we had, all the way to the end of phase 3. It was showing that operation and maintenance is driving most of this rate increase, at almost half of it. So like I said, there really would be a need for an increase probably to at least consider it just to cover O&M costs. The proposed debt service and related reserve is about 20% between the different 3 alternatives. Pilot accounting for about 20%, and then the short-lived asset reserve accounting for about 15%. So the kind of final ask here, and if there are any questions, is to just decide on which bond structure we think we would like to move forward.
So these are based upon increases to residential customers based on a 5/8-inch meter, is that right?
Yes, for 4,000.
Of course, you have commercial meter, the costs are going to be substantially higher than this. I mean, just by a percentage, obviously. So commercial use.
Courtney, I want to pause there. Oh, I'm sorry, Roger.
No,
Well, pause there. You hit up something Councilman Moore brought up, and I'm glad you spelled it out in the exact phrasing of 20 versus 27 versus 35. And yes, there's a huge amount of interest when you get to those next two. And you look at the net proposed rate, it's just pennies. So I'm glad you charted it in such a way. It's in both your packets and in this color chart she brought. But yeah, the amount of interest, goodness, and it really doesn't change anything on the rate. If you look at what it does for the utility, the 27 and 35 are just not competitive, I guess is a good way of saying it. They don't make a lot of sense. So I think that's spelled out very clearly here.
I have a few questions for you. I know it's in here because I know I saw it. I'm just trying to get here real fast. Our wholesale rates on what kind of increases are wholesalers looking at?
So you can kind of speak to this as well. Wholesale.
What's that question?
The increase to the wholesale rates.
Oh, yeah. So I think those are attached to the rate ordinances as well. And we reviewed the wholesale contracts and they're working through those. But there should be wholesale rates that I think are fixed to the rate ordinance.
So right now we've assumed that they'll be increased across the board as
Yeah,
well.
the same.
Yeah.
The same percentage? Or
Same
okay.
percentage, correct.
Yeah, and one of those wholesale contracts requires it to be the same percentage. It's right, it's an older contract.
And that's how they've been renewed. Yes.
Yeah.
sewer rates not going to be adjusted to reflect the increased water rates, right? Stay the same.
Correct. This is strictly separate from that utility.
I guess the other one for me too, on the estimated annual cash operating disbursements, on that sheet at the very top, there was adjustments for salaries and wages. The estimated salaries and wages is $615,900. Less, looks like the less test year amount was $592,000. So, and it looks like there's an adjustment on that of $23,651. Is that based on a raise for a single person, or is that just based on a raise for like across the board? Like if we were to give out another.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, so the test year is showing what salaries and wages were paid out of water for 2023. Okay. The estimated amount. So if you're looking at the rate study on page 27, if you go to adjustment 1, I guess it doesn't say. So the estimated salaries and wages is based on a 4%.
1%.
Yes.
So we understand, and I think you've talked about this, there's a required minimum balance, correct, that we have to carry. And obviously we have a shortfall right now in that. correct? So what is the solution to get that up? Like, will that have to be done before we can even sign our paperwork on our bond, or is that just a requirement of the life of the bond issue?
Yes, so it's a requirement in the bond ordinance. It spells out for the operating fund, you need to have a reserve to be able to pay for 2 months of operating expenses. Is how we determine that calculation. So it's just really a minimum level that you need to keep your operating.
And just a note of history, that was done and appropriately calculated the last time when Baker Tilly and RD made those documents. That is just a natural reflection of why the cost of doing business in the inflated economy has put the utility.
And that was 3 years ago, correct?
19.
Oh,
2021.
21.
All right, that's right. Correct. Yeah. Right. So yes, that had been met.
Yeah, just looking at, just a repayment standpoint, I'm just looking at the number of outstanding bonds the city currently has. It's listed out there on page 135, excuse me. By my calculations, if we approve this, we're going to spend about $680,000 a year on bond repayments. It's not generating any new revenue other than rate increases. We don't have a proposed industry that's going to come in. We're not tapping any new customers unless we have some new building on South Main Street, which we've had several new buildings go up in the last couple of years, but not a whole lot of room for development on South Main Street with the current city limits. So it's just really where my mind goes to is looking how much debt the city currently holds, and then we're adding more here. Just something to think about. That's a 20-year commitment there. The money's already tight. We're having, we pinched the penny pretty tight. We've done a good job of trying to trim as much fat as you can on the budget. There's really no place else to trim. I understand that. That's just a big concern for me. I understand, the infrastructure's old and needs to be replaced for sure. That's weighing on that's kind of what's on my thought right now. That's kind of what's on my mind.
Courtney, I know you have a lot of clients, certainly up and down Indiana's municipal water works. And this is kind of a Bo question, a Courtney question all at once. Roger's right, and I know what he means. He's asking the right questions. For our benefit, what are you guys seeing as far as utility expansions? What are you seeing in the appropriate level of leveraging debt for those needs in those future years? In other words, a utility our size, are you seeing similar projects? Are you seeing similar exercises? Are you seeing these discussions with their board of works and common councils is, okay, this is our roadmap. We've come to a point where we've got to have some other revenues to meet these obligations of our end users. What are you seeing kind of across the board?
I will say I'm seeing a lot of projects right now, a lot of communities kind of going through a similar situation. The SRF project priority list is always very full. There's always more applicants than what they can give out. So that's something to keep in mind. You guys would be getting a very favorable rate right now through SRF compared to maybe delaying this and trying to go the open market route. I've also seen some of my clients that have delayed projects, and then it comes down to that they start having very large emergency repairs that they then can't put off because things are breaking and they've kind of delayed it for too long. So something to think about for that as well.
Yeah, I think she's right. There's been a lot of utility, wastewater, and water projects done really since COVID that a lot of local communities backlog just left. Pipes that are a little older and aging, and there's a lot of catch up, a lot of rate increases in both water utilities and sewage utilities around the state right now. As Courtney mentioned, state revolving fund is backed up, and it's a choosy program. It's really hard to get in. 2% is what would you see if you place a certain guess like what you've seen recently?
Probably 5 or 6%.
Yeah. But I think one thing that's key here is the prior bond ordinance requires a certain minimum account level, and you're currently not hitting that, so you're going to have to do a rate increase anyways to comply with USDA. And this project, I think it's needed. I'll let the engineers speak to that, so they get paid for it. But yeah, Mr. Pennington, to answer your question, and Mayor, there's a lot of these projects going on.
Yeah, I just, being a new council person, I just would hope that we've exhausted every other funding source, and we just haven't went to a bond issue because I don't want to say, it's easier, I guess I should say, than spending the time to try to, procure funds in another way. And I know that there's Ready 2.0 coming up. I don't know if this would have been something that might have fallen under those parameters. Not sure, but I know that deadline's already here. It's almost here. I'm sure you have some things that you probably already asked for that. I understand that, but yeah, I just really, I'm just kind of from the old school. I just like to, just kind of exhaust every means possible to try to, upgrade our infrastructure, which I know it's old. I understand. I worked for the city for about 29 years, so I worked for the fire department, so I know some of those water lines are old. I do know that, but I've got to weigh some other factors in there too. So,
Westler, did you all apply for any grants or seeking grants from SRS?
Yes. One comment, I guess, that I will make specifically about the grants has another avenue. Obviously, that's a preferred method because it's free money. The fact of the matter, when IFA, OPRA, the different organizations look at the grants, there again, like SRF is, it's very, very competitive. But their criteria that they look at mainly is the burden on residents. So the people with the higher existing utility rates more often are going to get the grants because the residents cannot support a higher rate. Utilities that have done a great job of keeping rates down over the year are kind of crippled in that scenario because they look at those grants and say, no, you can afford rate increases. You don't need free money. So just be open. That's kind of how that criteria works on the grant side. But yes, they were applied for and we did not qualify for the grants. And this was the next best case.
Well, I think our rates are going to go either way. So I think we're going to have a little higher rates no matter what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So Courtney, back on the drivers of this rate impact here. So just quick calculations here. 77% out of this 100% that's calculated here is it's going to happen regardless whether we do a bond issuance or not. Correct? Yeah. So 23%, the remaining 23% makes up 100%, and which would be used for the proposed bond.
To your point, Dylan, Steve and Dan have been part of several conversations over the years in the fact that, yes, we went many years, and we didn't address and probably did the utility a little disservice, as it should have probably had an uptick as soda pop or Big Macs, what have you. Goodness, we didn't keep up either. And so some of our own maintenance of the funds, we've been very good to our ratepayers and wanted to stay at that low threshold. I think to Monty Dunn's point, it's also penalized us. And so, Roger, you're right. We have exhausted some of those avenues, if not all those avenues. And the fortunate thing is, yes, our application was so good and our need was so readily understood by the Indiana Finance Authority that the 2% offer came our way. What do you say, 5 to 6% of your clients is all that ever see that kind of offering. And so open market, we'd be flirting 5, 6, 7% by chance, 6 anyway. Yeah.
Well, the main reason for this now timing is to work in conjunction with the NDOT project on South Main Street. I'm assuming that's why this has come up at this particular point in time.
Two reasons. You're right. That's the secondary. the IFA funding cycle, whether NDOT was doing their job now or not on that grant, completely separate from water lines. It's a streetscape.
Yeah, we're not tied.
Yeah.
Those two projects aren't bound together.
They're not bound together. Then you paint the picture, connect the dots. So yes, Roger, goodness, boy, it'd be shameful to build a new street over the existing infrastructure that we're all talking about. And that's the key here. So yes, they're separate. Yeah, the timing such. IFA has a window that Westler has prepared, Baker-Tilly has followed, the bond council has looked at, and that gets us out of the way. Certainly meets their timeline of financing, and then the NDOT grant that follows suit.
I have a few more questions for you on the schedule of estimated project cost and funding. You have some estimated non-construction costs calculated down here. Can you explain what the construction administration and observation fee is?
That is more of the engineering.
That's for full-time contract administration and an on-site inspector to inspect all of it to make sure the work meets the city's code and criteria for how it needs to be constructed.
So is that the state of Indiana or is that Ronnie or?
No, that's provided by Westler.
Westler, okay.
Or the city, yes.
That's pretty.
And the length of the project, what's the projected timeline?
Substantial completion's 10 months, final 11 and a half months.
Depending on the weather, I know there's a lot of variables.
And when's the proposed start date?
If we meet all the timelines for SRF, we're looking in first week or so of April for start.
Sorry, once again, SRF, IFA, one and the same. Sometimes we tend to combine those two acronyms, Indiana Finance Authority or State Revolving Fund.
So I think you said this earlier, Courtney. This one showing here, the Main Street water replacement for phase 2 and 3 is showing $2.1 million right now. Well, we know in our last meeting that I mean, the lowest bid was the 1.8, I believe is what it was. Yeah, 1.8. So you said that you had calculated that on closer to the second bid in case the first bid. Okay. Is it looking like that's going to happen, or is that just like a worst case scenario?
At this point, go ahead. I was gonna say, we don't really want to speak out of turn. We're given all the documents they submitted, and there's a lot of stuff to take in, make sure they provided all the documents they need. So we're kind of just still going through all that. Haven't made any recommendation.
But if we end up at the lower, for, the lower bid, it wouldn't really move the needle too much on the rates, maybe a couple pennies difference.
And then I guess for both of you, yeah, the construction contingencies at 10%, is that pretty normal on that?
Yeah, you typically see that built in on deals.
10 to 20%, yeah.
It's just, I don't know. We've got a $1.8 million proposal and then it turns into 3.3 just because of all the fatty parts of it, I guess is kind of where I'm getting hung up on. There's a lot of money added on.
Yeah, I would agree, Dylan, that you take 379,000 divided by just 10 months, that's, $37,000 a month for that. Seems, I'm not an engineer, obviously. So I understand that's just the cost of doing business.
Assuming the legal, financial, and other costs and rounding, that's like, so attorney fees and Baker-Tilly.
SRF's fees. Okay.
Well, sir, you could speak to this question. Just for regulatory requirements, the PER, the pre-engineering report, preliminary engineering report, and other documents, a lot of those are required and necessary for items approval in getting a permit to construct new water lines. So we would have the burden of these costs regardless.
Correct.
Help if I gave a sense of timing too on everything, because there's a lot of moving pieces, at least on the SRF piece, just so.
Sure.
You know kind of what we're doing. So, tonight you're looking at your second reading for the bond ordinance. We need to get an executed bond ordinance up to state revolving fund. Keep things moving. Rate ordinance, this would be your first reading. Notice will be published with the paper. Sally's also going to post it in 3 public places in the city as well, for a public hearing at your next meeting, which will be February 26th. So you'll have a public hearing on it, and you'll do your final readings on the rate increase ordinance there. And then I think the rest of the timeline said our pre-closing was February 29th. So 3 days later, we've already drafted most of the documents just because it's so compressed. Usually you have a little bit more of a window, but that's kind of where you're headed.
Reporting on a bond payment, it shows on our amortization schedule, basically, there's 2 payments a year, correct? Is one of them a principal payment, one is an interest payment, or they're both principal interest?
How they're structured, they're both semi-annual, so it's both principal.
Principal.
Well, Courtney, this is a very concise, precise, well-read, flow chart. I think it states what we're trying to wrap our heads around. I think it says everything we need to consider in the sense of how we got to our numbers are. So thank you. Thank Andre in his absence. I think it spells out what we need to consider, and making some discussion points. Bo, did you have anything to add to that?
No, sir. That's really it. I'll answer any legal questions.
According to the change in average monthly residential bill, I see that the current bill is $34.92. Is that our average water bill for the city of Salem? Like that was
Yes,
computed
that's
out of
based on a 5/8 inch meter.
4,000 gallons.
Kind of the average that we see across the city for residential.
So average meaning we have a lot that are much less.
Less and some.
The other more.
Okay.
Goodness, that's right.
So I'll put this up again, like our
I'd like a copy of that.
phase,
I have a copy of that.
phase one is showing about a 22% increase in rate across the board. So our wholesale rates will go up 22%, correct with that
As the
contract?
current narrative in the contract that may be re-signed is that they would mirror.
You can have this copy.
Is there any foreseen changes in that contract this year? Like any language changes or anything like that that you could foresee coming?
No,
Okay.
yeah, they're already multi-year commitments
Okay.
anyways, goodness, yeah, yeah. So no, it would just be the narrative and language of that rate.
Right. One other question, sorry. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. It's a lot to look at, obviously, and you'll probably point it out much easier than where I can find it. So, on the proposed 20-year bond, with the increase that comes with that, what does that leave like left over, basically, like at the end of the year for operating? Does that leave anything in the budget, I should say?
So we've built in, yeah, so it'll cover all the operating costs that we've included in this, so the salaries and wages increase, we built in inflationary increase, so these rates will cover that. Any additional, there is a coverage factor built in, so you can see on the revenue requirements, the minimum coverage requirement that you need is 125%. So we have built in a little above that, just so you'll have kind of some excess.
We can build that emergency fund up with that as well. I think that's how it's doing. Maybe it's getting.
Correct. That's where I was
It's
coming-
been
that's where I was coming
grossly
from.
underfunded recently, which is important.
Good point. Yeah.
And water, I'm assuming, does have a like an emergency fund like that, or like
Depreciation.
a depreciation fund. Okay. Is there a certain limit that we're allowed to keep in there? Like, is it like our general, like in our rainy day, like we can only keep a certain percentage? All current. And based on your knowledge, Courtney, would you say at the end of, phase three, which is showing 2026 now, would you go as too far, or would you go to say that there's probably going to be another rate increase in 2026, looking at these
I mean,
figures?
it's hard to say, but I will say that I'm seeing a lot more of our communities just kind of implementing little 3% marginal increases every year to keep up with inflation.
Because that's kind of where I would like to, that's kind of where I was going with that. I would like to get and moving in that direction where we can do that, and where it's not a 22% increase just this one time, where we can just do, hey, it's 3%, it's going to be, 6 cents on your water bills, all you're going to know it's going up. But
No, and that was the history of saying Steve and Dan have had those conversations, goodness, and that's right, Dylan. There's a lot of thought process in, and from 21, we were, honestly, we're in pretty good shape. Certainly those environmental conditions changed in the economy, but nevertheless, you're right, and Courtney and Bo can both attest, whether it's tied to the CPI, whether it's just a flat percent, that is a common ordinance that is entertained by a lot of municipal owned utilities. Okay, council, please, Bo and Courtney are here at our disposal or need, and certainly ask away. But at the same token, we need to make some conversations on how we want to discuss in the next few items. Anything from Wessler that we haven't hit on regarding rate study itself and what you want to add? Okay, looking at the agenda, you guys will stay put. Looking at the agenda, there is no action on the rate study itself, correct? That's the information that we needed tonight. So on either side, bookend, if you will. We have those two outstanding items we need to discuss in some fashion. Roger asked the question. I think we need to go back to that. The second read of ordinance 2024-1. Say again in the most simplistic way, guys, that ordinance allows us to carry on the conversation with IFA and show that we are meeting some projected timelines and that we have an ordinance in place to proceed if we so see fit.
Correct. And you can't sell the bonds unless you have the rate ordinance adopted. You have to have that public hearing and then also the final reads on that. So, even if the bond ordinance was passed today, rate ordinance did not get passed, we can sell bonds. It doesn't meet the coverage requirements. And any order you want, you can do rate ordinance first or bond ordinance, however.
I definitely think there was a lot of time and interest put in this rate study. I mean, it's in depth. It's very good. It's in detail.
I wouldn't give them a commercial. If Courtney was standing here or Andre, and she can leave if she wants to go on the hallway. Baker Tilly does this across the state, across the nation. Goodness, you're almost in every state. That's one of their fortes. So you're right, Dylan. These are numbers that are very much vetted and very much accurate. There's other municipal advisors out there, but this is one of their fortes, and we've always been very satisfied with how they do work. Goodness, that's you're right. A lot of data, but it's data that's right.
This was my weekend. This was my weekend.
Yeah.
That's what I did all weekend. It was.
And Sally and I have read these a few times, so you're right. They're a head scratcher, and you go back and read again. There's a lot to them, but it's reassuring that okay, this is where we're at, and the reality is X. We do have a deficiency, and certainly just nature of where we're at in the economy and that 20% inflation. I don't think that's a secret to anybody, and so it doesn't matter if it's cost of materials or if it's wages. The silent times, it just costs more to operate. That's what we're faced with, some challenges there.
I mean, I think we can all agree that we can't allow our water department, wastewater department to keep running in the red. I mean, it just can't happen. And I think that it's very fair to say that Justin and Sally has trimmed off every bit of fat that they could at the department itself. And as far as running efficient and vehicle maintenance and fuel and things like that, I mean, that all stuff adds up too. But I mean, we're looking at a rate study. I mean, rate studies don't lie is where I'm going with this. So, I mean, it's something that we're going to have to do to get them out of red.
Councilman Moore, well said. I'm going to then ask, is that a form of a introduction to a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-6 based on Baker Tilly's rate study.
I'll second.
Pardon me, I would not speak for you. Are you flirting and issuing a 20-year verbiage versus the 27
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
35?
20-year.
Please.
Absolutely.
Okay. Steve, is that okay?
I thought that might be decided down the road. I wasn't sure if that would need to be decided tonight or not.
Is that not reflective, Courtney, of what we need to pick one of three?
Yeah, we would need
So-
to get the documents to us.
I'll amend my motion. I'll move to approve ordinance 2024-6 based on the 20-year bond proposal.
Okay, I think that's what we were trying to say.
I'll second it.
And so now Steve repeats his second. Okay, council, you've heard the data, you've heard the reasoning. Dylan makes the motion, Steve seconds. All in favor of ordinance 2024-6, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Then please go up. The second read, again, this changes nothing in 2024-1. You've approved it on first read that allows the IFA to know you have voted or you have proceeded with other issues and a time frame is accordingly. So that needs a second vote. So ordinance 2024-1 will be your next action.
And that is for the bond itself.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to accept ordinance 2024-1.
Okay, council, on second read, Dan makes the motion to approve ordinance 2024-1. Allowing the procedure of IFA to proceed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, council, Dan makes the motion to proceed, Steve makes the motion second with second read on 2024-1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain. Abstain.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, I'm not sure, please, if you would speak.
On a tie-breaking vote, you would be the deciding vote.
Do we have verification of the abstention? The passing of 2024-6 goes certainly, as we said, we did a matter of order, but we have all votes on 2024-6. I'm not sure about the abstention on 2024-1. Thoughts?
Do you have a basis for abstaining?
I agree that we need a rate increase. I just don't know how much of a stomach I have for a $3.3 million bond at this time. Can you change my vote, correct?
You can withdraw your.
I'll withdraw.
vote.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my original vote.
Okay, then we'll need to withdraw the motion. If the vote's going to withdraw, so let's go back. Call for a motion on second read ordinance 2024-1, the Waterworks revenue bond.
Make a motion once again to accept the second read ordinance 2024-1.
Okay, Dan makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Steve seconds. Okay, call for vote. Once again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so with your ayes leading, that undoes ordinance 2024-6. So Jake, would you like to speak to that?
If that ultimately defeats the ordinance.
So
We'll let the state know.
that ultimately then takes everything off the table, and your rate increase or your rate study now does no good.
Would you all still like us to proceed with posting notice of the rate increase or no? That rate increase factors in the bond.
Right.
Yeah, I think you'll have to redo your rate study.
Yeah, you'll have to start over.
Well, I mean, we have, the board works, or the city council has the authority to raise water rates on our own. Is that correct? I mean, is that correct?
You do, it's not advisable. You need some definitive reason why you're doing it.
But I think we have it, don't we? Right in front of us.
Yeah, I think that factors in the bonds as well.
Yeah, so this no longer is a valid document by itself.
So simply because we don't decide to do a bond revenue, then those numbers just disappear. They're not accurate numbers anymore.
Correct.
Yep, and they would, I won't speak too much, she'd have to redo them, rework
We
them,
would
take
just-
back up bond payments.
Yeah, we would just have to take out the proposed bond piece of it, just kind of rework the numbers.
That's what I mean. I mean, those numbers are not going to change because we're not doing, I mean, we're going to have to raise water rates at some point, and at some percentage. It just won't be the percentage.
Correct.
So it's not, this isn't doomsday.
Oh, no.
No, yeah. We still have the ability to raise rates for our customers to get us in where we can operate.
This study just would not be the one you would prefer. All right, correct.
Do you know when that study will be complete? Or be able to change that to where we could see that?
I mean, yeah, if you want us to proceed with that, we could just rework, take out those.
Needs motion for that.
So I guess the question is, would you like to wait for the new information to come in on the rate study and then proceed with advertising a rate increase
Yeah,
in that order?
yeah, I would say, chime in, she can rework her rate study. We'll pause on posting the notice, because in the notice of public hearing, it actually puts what the rates are. So we'll have to pause on that, because we're gonna take care of that tomorrow. Just kind of pause on that until they get it.
In light of the rate ordinance passage, I think it would be appropriate to have a vote to memorialize what you're asking here and what you're requesting with respect to advertising and the updating of the rate study.
Yeah.
So make a motion on having her redo the rate study with no bond. And
correct.
That's all I need to say.
That matter?
I'll make a motion on behalf of council for Baker Tilly to proceed with preparing a new rate study showing no bond.
I'll second.
Motion on the table for a rate study minus any expenditures for a bond for the improvements. Roger seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay. So Lesser, Baker Tilly, Frost Brown Todd, I suppose then, we need conversations offline as far as canceling future, meetings and how those agendas look.
Yep.
So we'll get that taken care of. Okay. All right, council, if you'll go to your accounts payable vouchers, they are on 166 to 198.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable vouchers.
Makes the motion to approve claims as presented.
Second.
Bill, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, a couple of items, miscellaneous, the Board of Works and Public Safety heard, we have a, holiday conflict. And so, council, we need to reschedule, those meetings. And, sorry, you don't get first choice. Board of Works has already agreed the next day, the business day of Tuesday, so April 9th, October 15th, and November 12th. Please, if you are good to repeat that and do the same, or we can have it the same night, and make that simple, please.
I'll make a motion to accept those changes of the dates, April 9th, October 15th, and November 12th, 2024.
I'll second.
Danny makes a motion. We will meet on Tuesdays now, in those 3 months. Dale seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, you can disregard the next item. And so we will move on then. No one signed in, and I think our speaker has left. So we have no other items on the agenda. Council, seek motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
May 2nd, we adjourn 7:10. Thank you.